She-Hulk and Moon Knight review. Go! Wait, no. She-Hulk and Werewolf by Night review. Sorry, both end in night, but not the same night. It's spelled different. Okay, go! So She-Hulk just finished last week, and according to the internet and a couple of loud and very annoying people, it's the worst show ever? Is it? No. This show is actually not bad at all. In fact, I'd say it's actually above average when it comes to the Marvel Disney Plus shows. I'd probably say it's around WandaVision. It's not the best, but honestly, there wasn't a lot to dislike about this show. To be fair, nothing blew me away either. Okay, except maybe Daredevil. But we'll get to him. So let's go over the lame stuff in the show first. Obviously, the CGI is probably the worst part. To be honest, the CGI has been subpar for all of the MCU recently, and it's just extra apparent in this show because She-Hulk is the main character. And to be fair, sometimes it actually does look pretty good, especially in some darker lighting, but whenever she wears like a suit in court, it looks pretty bad. The CGI and visual effects is really the MCU's biggest problem for me. Mainly with how they go about it and not giving the artists enough time. But I'm hoping with their recent delays that they've had that they're trying to fix that. They also make a joke about the visual effects that kind of feels gross considering how awful the artists have been getting treated. And some of the jokes in the show don't always land, especially in the first half. Lastly, the story is pretty meh. Nothing too interesting, but it's a lot more episodic to be fair, and I think overall that works for the tone of the show. Okay, but that's enough negativity. Let's get into the positives. First, let's talk about the humor. I was saying that in the first half the jokes aren't that good, but throughout the show it does have some legitimate laugh out loud moments. Lots of meta and fourth wall breaking jokes can feel forced and lame, but this show plays it off pretty well, and similar to She-Hulk in the comics. It also feels different enough from other fourth wall breaks like Deadpool. I think Jen Walters herself helps a lot with that because Tatiana Maslany is just so good in this role. She plays Jen with such a distinct personality that's so fun and goofy, like this moment here.
Do my thing.
Or how she says yes here.
With the... Yes.
She just feels so real and such a fun person, and I enjoyed the arc she went through with accepting and enjoying being She-Hulk. Other stuff that was cool about this show is how it talks about the MCU so much. Even stupid things like Captain America's ass and his virginity, it just really makes it feel more involved and connected. The show may also be the best example of crossovers as it features a lot of other big characters from the MCU and comics, like Hulk, Abomination, Wong, and Daredevil. But we'll get to him. I have to give this show credit with how it predicted pretty much exactly how some dum-dums would react to this show. It's just like so embarrassing that people like Todd actually exist, and they perfectly profiled these guys. They always refer to women as females, wear one AirPod in, and how they love using the argument, oh, I would give the same criticism if they were a guy. Really loved how Marvel Studios completely exposed and dismissed this embarrassing group of incels. It was also pretty accurate to how ruthless and harmful that these people can be. Towards the end of the season, they do something to Jen that is pretty messed up and definitely something these guys would do. Basically using like a sex tape to damage her credibility and image. And it was pretty brutal and sadly realistic that this could and would happen. I know there's lots of people that exist like this, dismissing the show and trashing on it, and if you look at IMDb, you can see what I'm talking about. Anyways, obviously you can dislike the show, and I can understand why you would. The humor is hit or miss, the story is pretty average, and the CGI as usual is pretty meh. But keep in mind the way you dismiss this show. If you think it's the worst show ever or too woke, holy shit, go watch some actual woke shows, please. This show has pretty surface level, yet still admirable takes on feminism and the struggles of just being a woman. But then again, I'm a cis white man, so my opinion on it doesn't really have much merit. Go see what other women have to say about it. I'm just really glad that the MCU isn't afraid to belittle and make fun of these dumbass fans. With this show and Ms. Marvel, it really gives me hope for the future of the MCU, and hopefully it continues to be more accepting and progressive with defending, exploring, and uplifting more underrepresented groups. So back to the show, it's just really clever and charming, and you can just tell that the whole cast and crew had so much fun working on it. And oh my god, Daredevil! So Daredevil was in the last half of the show and was amazing. He really felt like a true continuation from his character in season 3, where he's gotten to really understand the balance of being both Daredevil and Matt Murdock, and is still a kick-ass lawyer, and still has his goddamn Matt Murdock charm. Let's go! Matt, you absolute whore! Matt and Jen have such a great amount of chemistry, and besides this one part where She-Hulk throws a car at him, which seemed really weird and out of character, they have so many moments together, and by the end of the show, she and Matt seem to be hinting at a future relationship, and I'm wondering if she's going to end up showing up in his show. And man, Matt seems so happy in this show, and it's sad that we all know we're going to see everything go back to shit when his show starts. Like, he gets back to New York, and it's like, oh, hey, Matt, you're back. By the way, Foggy is dead, Kingpin is back, Bullseye is back, Karen is missing, and also you have cancer. Let's see, other things I liked about the show. The side characters Pug and Nikki were cool. Titania felt like she could have been used a bit more. She kind of just randomly pops up. Twerking scene was not that bad. It was literally a post-credit scene. I love the dad. I love the original Incredible Hulk TV show reference. And the worst part about this show was easily the anti-homeless She-Hulk bench. Okay, let's move on to Werewolf by
Moon Knight.
Man, this special presentation was pretty damn good. The style is oozing, and Michael Giacchino deserves all the praise for his first major directorial debut. Before I talk about everything I liked, let me just go over what wasn't the best. So, this special has a lot of practical effects and costumes and sets, but it also does have some CGI, and because of all the other practical effects and the old style it goes for, the CGI sticks out a lot. It isn't that bad of CGI, but it doesn't really mesh well with the black and white and old-timey visuals. And speaking of that old-timey filter, it is really cool, but they kind of drop it in the second half. The action in this is also kind of hit or miss. It's more MCU pushy punchy than horror slashy scratchy and gruesome. Like the Werewolf specifically, he does have moments of primalness and viciousness, but he also does a lot of lame throwing, punching, and pushing that doesn't really go well with him. The side characters are all kind of jabronis. The special isn't really that scary, but it could be more just trying to be the older style horror movies, and maybe those aren't that scary either. Lastly, sometimes the jokes are a bit out of place, but to be honest, that's kind of nitpicking. Okay, so this special has some incredible pacing, and it does really feel like a movie while somehow only being 50 minutes long. It has a very well established beginning, middle, and end. Nothing feels too rushed or drags on for too long. The main characters, Elsa and Jack, have pretty good chemistry and are also able to lead well throughout the special. And the story is basic enough and has a fun premise to get easily invested and entertained. I would say though that the main appeal of this is the style. Usually I hate black and white, but this uses it in a very smart and not at all annoying way, with a very, very smooth transition to color at the end. Some shots also go extremely hard in this special, like when Jack is transforming and when he fully reveals himself as the werewolf. Also, of course, the fight with the closing door. The werewolf's design was great for me, especially the eyes. I think the practical sets and effects really paid off and looked magnificent. Music was also pretty good, of course, with Michael Giacchino. Same with the sound design. And Man-Thing, of course, was a nice addition as well. Let's see, what else? The Butler was pretty hype, but yeah, this special was just straight up good. The performances were all corny, but believable, and just so many shots are inspired and unique to the MCU. Just feels very refreshing. The MCU recently doesn't have a lot of distinction between projects visually, besides this one and maybe Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness with Raimi, but hopefully they'll start to get better with that. Let's just go over what they're doing good and what they're doing bad. So I think music has been consistently great. I like that they're pushing more and more practical effects and stylistic choices. And I also like that the MCU is still great at making characters and character interactions. Lastly, I'm glad that they aren't afraid to belittle or speak out against the loser part of the fan base. Now, on the negatives, they still really need to improve on the CGI. It's just getting really bad and feels yucky with how they're treating the artists. The stories and the action aren't the best. That definitely needs to improve. And just letting directors do more so we can get more stuff like Werewolf by Night. Okay, so I'm gonna put She-Hulk here and Werewolf by Night here. And with my cloudy video, it's gonna be done when it's done. Now, go watch something.